Today's story is about Susan Goodwin. She disappeared from Port Lincoln in 2002, and for more than 2 decades her case was considered one of South Australia's most haunting unsolved mysteries. For 23 years, her family had no answers, no remains, and no clear explanation of what happened to her. But in September 2025, everything changed. This long-cold case was suddenly reopened when human remains were discovered buried in the backyard of a property in Port Lincoln. Police confirmed that the remains were consistent with a woman, and investigators immediately began treating the site as a potential crime scene connected to Susan Goodwin. On the 17th of September 2025, police announced that a man had been arrested and charged with Susan's suspected murder. This announcement marked the first major breakthrough in the case since her disappearance in 2002. Detectives said that new information had guided them to the property where the remains were found, although they have not publicly disclosed what led them there. The discovery of the remains became a turning point, finally giving investigators evidence they had never been able to obtain before. For the Port Lincoln community, a town that remembered the case for years, the news was shocking but also offered a sense of long-awaited progress. To understand the significance of this breakthrough, we need to look back at the year Susan disappeared. In 2002, Susan Goodwin was reported missing after failing to make contact with family and friends for an extended period. Her sudden disappearance raised concerns almost immediately, because it was out of character for her to simply vanish. Over the years, the case saw numerous appeals, interviews, and community searches, but no solid evidence ever surfaced. For 2 decades, investigators had no remains, no confirmed sightings, and no timeline they could prove beyond early reports. Despite the lack of leads, South Australia Police never officially closed the file on her disappearance. Then, in 2025, new information brought detectives back to Port Lincoln. The backyard of a residential property suddenly became a major crime scene. Specialist forensic teams were called in to excavate the site carefully and systematically over multiple days. The remains were located underground, and police stated they believed they may belong to Susan, pending formal identification. This discovery was described as significant enough to immediately support murder charges. On the same day the remains were found, detectives arrested a man and charged him with Susan's suspected murder. Police confirmed that the man was known to Susan at the time she went missing. He was transported under police escort for processing and has since been remanded in custody as the investigation continues. The case is now moving through the court system, where forensic evidence, historical information, and new investigative material will be presented. For investigators, the focus is now on determining exactly what happened in the period leading up to Susan's disappearance in 2002. They are also building a timeline that may explain how her remains ended up buried in a backyard more than 2 decades later. The discovery has not only brought new direction to Susan's case but has also renewed conversation about how cold cases are handled in South Australia. For many in Port Lincoln, the news was deeply emotional. The town had lived with this mystery for more than 20 years, often wondering if the truth would ever be uncovered. While the investigation is ongoing, the recovery of remains has provided something that was missing for decades: a path toward answers. Police have stated they will release more details as the case progresses through the courts, but for now, the priority is forensic confirmation and a complete reconstruction of the events surrounding Susan's disappearance. This case serves as a powerful reminder that even after decades, cold cases can still be solved, and justice can still move forward. It also shows the importance of new information, community memory, and modern forensic techniques in uncovering the truth. For Susan Goodwin's family, friends, and the Port Lincoln community, the hope now is for closure, accountability, and finally understanding what happened in 2002. The investigation continues, but authorities say the discovery of the remains and the arrest marks a major step toward resolving one of South Australia's longest-running mysteries. Police have not revealed who provided the information that led them to the backyard where the remains were discovered. They have not said whether the tip-off came from a witness, a change of circumstances, new forensic analysis, or someone who decided to speak up after many years. In cases like this, it is not uncommon for new information to emerge decades later, sometimes because people reflect, relationships change, or someone finally feels ready to disclose what they know. Investigators have also not released any information about why the accused remained living in Port Lincoln for so many years after Susan disappeared. Whether he stayed for personal reasons, work, family ties, or simply because it was his home, police have made no public statements about his movements during the past 2 decades. What remains clear is that this case has shaken the Port Lincoln community, a place where people often know each other through family, work, or long-standing local history. As the case heads toward court, investigators will continue piecing together the timeline, the evidence, and the unanswered questions that have lingered since 2002. For now, the discovery of remains, the arrest, and the renewed investigation offer the first real progress in more than 20 years, and many hope it will finally bring answers and closure to those who have waited for so long. You have been listening to The Midnight Cult. Please subscribe to my channel if you would like to hear more Australian crime stories.